Hello, welcome to another devlog for my 2D space game. Let's get some solar panels into the game. So currently all the modules only consume resources. Solar panels will be the first module with an action that can produce resources. And I also realized, take this thruster for example. This consumes 5 fuel every tick that it produces thrust, and it consumes that fuel successfully. But if we make it bigger, it becomes more powerful, but the cost stays the same. All the modules' efficiency are multiplied by its mass. So the 6 kilo one will be 6 times as strong as this 1 kilo one, but then they both consume the same fuel, and I don't think that's right. So I think I should just make all the costs multiplied by the same thing, so they scale properly. And then, since it's generalized, like the things we implement should work for contraptions regardless of their size. So like we could build a spaceship the size of this planet, and all the logic should still work. And if a thruster is this large, it should cost a bit more than 5 fuel, I think, for example. So I think that makes sense. And I'm afraid that then there might not be an incentive to build larger, but I'm pretty sure there will be, because the larger you build, the smaller the fraction of the cargo you hold, meaning you can carry more stuff. I know that in real life, like a bigger rocket, you can bring more cargo into orbit, for example. And I want it to be something similar in the game. I think it's going to happen naturally. So, the solar panel here. I'm now showing all the produce and the cost in the context menu, but I made the produce actually scale with the mass. So that's pretty nice. And that's just using this restore method that I conveniently implemented a while back. This is the only action for the solar panel so far, but this should be a base method in the action, so it works for all the actions and also for all the costs. Then we need to implement a way to always enable a module, because currently modules are only activated when you click their keybind, and if they don't have a keybind, you can't even click the button in the context menu to turn them on. So some modules should like always work or be toggled on by default, and perhaps we'll create a button for it anyway, even though it doesn't have an action. I'm not sure. Introduced a always active attribute for the actions, and I also moved the toggle action to the action. I was initially thinking we would be able to toggle modules on and off, but a module can have multiple actions, and for example, like a miner, like mining for resources, might have the mining action, but also like an engine action, consuming fuel to produce power, and then the mining action consumes power. But then you might want to run one without the other. So let's put the toggle mix in on the action instead of the module. I think that's nicer. And then we already had this concept of toggled key name, which is, for example, for a gyroscope, we get a button for each of the keybinds, so A and D. We can actually toggle them right there. So now it's always gonna turn left there. Oh, but oh no, it stopped. It hit the wall. Okay. Right, I made it weaker, that's why it's behaving a bit differently. So then this was a bit confusing to figure out how it's gonna work with toggling on and off an action, but I think they should be separate systems. And then for the solar panel, we have an always active boolean, and we check then on every tick. If it's always active, we just call the action. But otherwise, we check if it has the toggled key name, and then we run the action with that key. And then deeper in here, where we actually call the action specific action, this is where we check if it's on or off. This means we could toggle it to always turn right, but then we could also turn it off. So then when we turn it on again, then it's gonna start rotating. And I should update these texts so it says which one of these are active. So you can only have one of these active at a time within a given action. Oh, I forgot to check the actual solar panel. So this one is now producing 3 power, and it should be filling this up. It is. Nice. And then if we make it larger, it's gonna go much faster. So now it's producing 58 power. Cool. So one issue emerges here. Where is the sun? I think just to begin with, I'll make it always active, because implementing the sun and like shadows is a pretty big mission. So I think I'll just make it always active, and regardless of distance to whatever star it's consuming power from. Let's see what happens when it fills up. It should just stop. Here we go, filling up, and full. Nice. 1 million power. Oh, and now we can't delete this because this storage is full. Right. Okay. No, that is by design. That probably means we should put the separate battery back so we can store power in its own place. I updated the menus so we can now disable the buttons as well. Previously, my hook functions for updating the text of the buttons and the text only returned text. But now we can also do anything we want with the widget, because I made them all take the widget as a parameter. And then, for example, here in the create menu for a list of modules, then we calculate if we can consume, but we consume it like normal, except we do a dry run. So that's a new support there. And then that returns true or false, whether we can consume it. And then that is what we use to update the disabled field of the widget, which works for buttons. So now it's a bit more intuitive to see whether you can build it or not. Creating a solar panel now actually fills up the power, and I realize I don't want that. So I want to implement a simple check to see if this has view of the sun, so that we actually have to move it outside, and then if we're on the opposite side of the planet compared to the sun, then it shouldn't work. But it's been a while since I added a parent planet. So we have a huge planet here now. Added some more units. We now have petatons. Not even sure how many zeros that is. But I had an issue with drawing the orbital lines. We had a check in place to determine whether we can approximate this as a straight line, and that's when it's red. But then when we zoom out far enough, it turns into the orange curved one. Because the issue is when we zoom in, and if it's a very curved orbit, I'm sure I went over this in previous devlogs, but whatever, then we're gonna want a lot of segments to get the detail needed. But we're zoomed in here, and then it's gonna draw thousands, and that created a lot of lag. So I found this bug and I fixed it, and let's change the color back here now. And also, alright, so the bug was that we were checking if the active shape was the body we were trying to draw, but this is a remnants from when we used to apply orbital force to the shapes instead of the bodies. So this hasn't worked since. So I just had to change this to active body, and then this would trigger, and then this would trigger. So we can change that back. And then I noticed in here, let me remove this fix. When we zoom out, it's not showing the whole one. It's because here I assume that I was only multiplying by the diagonal of the camera. It's like corner to corner, how big that distance is in world coordinates, and that's what we use to determine how far we want to draw this line. But I'm assuming that where we have the camera is the center of the body, which is, it's not. The center is down here. Like this zone belongs to the planet body. So I'm just adding the distance from the camera to the center of gravity there, and that seems to fix that. Oh, this should actually be a different color. Let's see here, colors of accent. That's updated too. All right, there we go. And yeah, it's barely noticeable. Very cool. So now we have this and one issue. So with the sun there, and let's pause right away. See if we can. Oh yeah, I saw it up there. We have the boulder up here. Ooh. Okay, we got some more lag spikes. What's up with that? I think it must be this one again. I'm gonna limit this to like 1,000 steps, because I haven't had this big of an orbit before, I think. Okay, so here it is. And zooming out now. Yeah, because this orbital drawing was like 8,000 lines or something, so I limited to max 1,000 now. Maybe that's fine. Wait, so no, why am I not approximating it as a straight line here, even though I'm focused on this one? Here, I'm assuming that we're only gonna draw the orbital lines on the active body, but that's not correct. So why don't we just remove this? Let's put that coloring back. That was kind of useful. Up here, now it's the yellow. Okay. I'm not sure how it's gonna work though with this whole thing now, because I take the distance to the center of gravity, so it's like the distance from here down to there. That's what I add to the line. I think it might be correct. Yeah, drawing just one line is cheap. Don't want to spend too much time on this. Just want to get it working. But yeah, that's pretty good. So probably remove that, preventing it from going over 1,000 steps. Yeah, FPS is stable. Yeah, and it's nice and yellow. And then it switches there. Beautiful. Let's save our progress. And now I want to show you this. So to actually control the solar panel, make it not work if it's in shade, we can just update it in its own do action, which updates its product. And I think this is pretty nice, because now, for example, I just set it to 0 as if it's in shade. So now it's gonna say it produces nothing, it produces an empty collection. And this means we can make it anywhere in between, so we don't have to make it on or off. We can make it like 50% if it's partially in the shade or whatever. But to start with, I just want to make it on or off using this method. So I want to shoot a ray trace or a segment query from the solar panel over to the sun. Let's actually make the sun spawn above us. How's that? Wait, what did I change? Oh, there we go. I guess like if the sun is setting over here, It can still charge inside. How can I get around that? Okay, cool. I filled out the query for the solar panel action. I put a cooldown for 1 second, should be totally fine, and turn on God mode here. And if we have this inside, then it's gonna be nothing. If we move it outside, we get 38 power there. Really nice. And let's see, let's add a battery. Play. Oh, that filled up right away. Wait, no, it stopped filling up because now the battery is blocking it, which is what I wanted. So now it works. Actually, let's just pick this up and rotate. Then it stops. And there it's fine. There it stops. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. If we just hide it a tiny bit, that's still valid. Move it down a bit. Okay, but there it's on. Because I'm getting the bounding radius and then I'm multiplying by 2. So the bounding radius for this shape is going to be its diagonal there. So then it adds that into the direction of the sun, which is right up there. So that's going to move it around there and then times 2. So it's up around there. And then we have the radius back again is the thickness of the beam we're casting. Should we just cast a thin line in the middle instead? Oh, I don't know. I think this could be fine. Like I said, I don't want to put too much effort into this because I do want to try getting proper shadows done. Like here we would have like shadows being cast in a line like this and a line like this. Then you would actually see the shadow below, like a rectangle below the circle there. Same like here, we cast the shadow, and here. I'm not sure it's feasible, but I do want to try. So until then, I think this is good enough. Very nice. So that's the solar panel done. Let's focus on something else. Perhaps let's try and get the boulder to stay on the planet. It would actually be pretty simple. We just move the boulder relative to the, oh, not the sun, to the planet. Yeah. And now it stays happily there. Cool. So we're actually, yeah, we're traveling 700 kilometers a second. Kilometers a second, meters a second. Wait. What's that? Veltex. What have I done? Relative vel length. Here. Okay. So I made this use dynamic units. And the velocity is actually unique since it's using the length and just adds per second to it. Let's try that. 700 kilometers a second. Whoa, we're going fast. Alright. But yeah, should be fine. Thought I would give the boulder some love. So I quickly made a new init method for our poly class. Before we've only been using rectangles. Now we have an init boulder method that takes a radius and then it equally distributes the vertices around the circle, but then we add some random noise to it to push the vertices in or out. It gives us this kind of shape. So no more only circles and rectangles. So this should make it a bit more interesting. Let's actually exaggerate the noise a bit here. I wanted to, that's pretty fun. Let's turn up the vertices, see what's happening. Oh, that's gonna make it really spiky, yeah. Okay, turn them down. That can I do? Yeah, that's kind of fun. But I'm wondering now actually, what if we make the planet out of this? Should be pretty easy to try. Oh, I don't think it's working. Might be a bit too many vertices. Oh, that's 60,000 vertices. Okay, close that. Thank you. let me quickly clamp this bad boy. Do I not have a clamp method? A low high. Okay, well, yes, that works. 300. Okay. Oh my god. Let's tune this down a bit. Let's add a noise value here. Let's make this a flat unit instead of a multiplier. I mean, flat addition. Whoa. Yeah, that's a bit laggy. It's working though. I wonder what's actually making the FPS drop there. Let's see if we profile this now. Should be no. Is point inside? Why am I checking that so much? What's calling it? Here, clip is here. Oh, it's drawing the polygon. That's the issue. All right, that's interesting. So maybe we won't try that yet, but I'm sure we could optimize it if we want to get that working. It's a bit of a disappointment, a bit of a worry. Like, what if we turn this up? Yeah, it gets much worse. So I'm sure there are some tricks to drawing this in a smarter way. Like we could get the vertices that are inside the screen connected to the next ones, and then only draw those somehow. Yeah. Whatever. Let's keep our nice circles. So this is cool. Got some more interesting shapes invented there. While we're at it, perhaps I want to introduce a bevel rectangle. I think I messed up the vertices. That's more like it. All right. But now I know we're gonna have this issue that they're gonna be skewed. Would probably need to introduce some way to recalculate the unedited vertices when we resize. Or do we do that already? Does the resizing work? Oh, we do that. But then it's generalized for all polys. So I guess I could override it for beveled rectangles, but I'm not even creating its own class. It's all polys. I don't know how to deal with that in a nice way. Maybe we'll hold off on the beveled for now. I guess we would need to change how the resizing works and actually make it just delete and recreate the shapes using the same methods they were created with. When drawing 100 of these boulders randomly spread across the planet, like there's one there, one over there, we get some FPS drops. We're down to 100 frames in the worst spot. So I wanted to try an alternative drawing technique, being sprites. So now the boulders are converted into sprites, but I couldn't get the alignment properly done. I didn't spend too much time on it, so I'm sure I could fix that. And it is faster. Like, we're drawing all of them, no problem now, but they don't look as good. You can see the lines are pretty jagged, and we can even increase the scale of them, or make them, since these are pretty small shapes, the resulting textures are really small, so you're going to be pretty zoomed in on them. So now it's the coordinates are scaled up by 50, and then the image is scaled back down by 50. Got some bit nicer textures there. Still have pretty good FPS with this. Like, it's barely noticeable to draw them. But it takes some time to boot up to calculate all the sprites, but that could just be stored in memory. But a downside is it's now much harder to get the on hover effects done and such. Like here, the circle is still using the old method, so I can hover on it fine. I can select it. So it's very easy to change the colors, but for the sprites, then you would have to create a new sprite for each color. And it's fine to resize them as well. Looks pretty funny, but has nothing to do with the sprites. So it definitely has potential, this doing it with sprites, but it would require a bunch of updates to the code that I'm afraid is not going to be worth it right now. And I do like the vector-like graphics of not doing the sprites. It gives us these nice crisp lines, however much you zoom in and such. The issue with drawing these boulders, for example, here is that we're drawing all of the 20 vertices for each boulder, even though they could be represented as a circle, which is much faster to draw. So one potential optimization here is just drawing them as circles when we zoom out. But it was nice to explore sprites, so now I know a bit more how they work and what it would entail to go for that approach. But I do think I'm gonna stick with Arcade's drawing methods. And the code to draw polygons as sprites was created by Gemini here. Really easy to just prototype this to see if it's worth doing properly or not. Pretty cool. I had an interesting revelation. What if instead of drawing filled polygons, we draw just the outlines? So having both options here, we can switch between. Let's try have a simple scene set up here with just a single huge boulder, and this one runs very poorly. It has 100 points and they are squished in and out, so it's a 100 vertex polygon, and this runs at 60 frames very poorly. But just changing this to only draw the outline is so much more efficient. So I wonder if I can use this instead. So this is how the survival scenario looks with this currently. Like, it's kind of fun. So the circles are still being drawn with entirely filling them. And you can see my optimization attempt here. When we zoom out on a shape that resembles a circle, then it becomes a circle when we zoom out. If we only do the outline drawing anyway, I think it's gonna be much better. Let's disable approximating it as a circle for now. Let's see how that behaves. Yeah, it's much better. Let's see what we're dropping frames on. Do a quick profiling here. Now we're spending time on still drawing, but drawing what? Not sure. But yeah, I don't know. But this is pretty cool. Like, it really changes what the game looks like. Or what if we would do a hybrid? That's a bit easier to see the misalignment with the stripes here. But what if we draw the outline with Arcade, making it easy to change the color there, and then we draw the backfill as a stripe, as a sprite? Kind of makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting option actually, but the code is a big mess right now. Needs a bunch of cleaning up. I want all the drawing calls to go through a single method, for example. Like we have this one, but then these are similar but not the same, and they're in different places. So yeah, let's clean it up and make it easy to switch between all these settings. I've cleaned up the drawing code, so now all the drawing calls go through these three methods. So I can standardize all the settings and stuff. And I'm just gonna make everything wireframes for now, and then use this as the basis. We can see approximating the rocks as circles is working pretty well there. Pretty happy with that. There's a good example. So this one cannot be approximated by circle because its ratio is below 0.8. Look at I already have the bounding radius method, which is the smallest radius that you can encapsulate the whole shape, and then you just calculate the area using that radius, and then you compare that to the actual area. Very simple but effective. So this is our check right now to see if we want to approximate a circle, and it's pretty. I know there are a lot more techniques to draw vertices better. Like I believe at some point we can like start skipping vertices and stuff and go every 2 vertices or every 3 vertices. So this is not gonna work for a lot of the shapes I wanna support. But I think it's a pretty fun optimization. Shows some potential there. Yeah, and then I can always enable sprites here, and that's gonna give us a basis to make everything look much nicer, because then we can like, I believe we can apply textures and stuff pretty easily if we do this. So then we just we backfill with the sprite texture, and we keep the outline maybe, or only have the sprite, whatever. But I don't want to focus on that now. So I think the wireframes are fine for now. It looks a bit silly. When creating the boulders up until now, we've only been using this boulder module, which has hard-coded to only use scrap. But I want to try dynamically changing the cost of the module so that we can get boulders of different materials. So I was thinking something like this. We create a collection, and then these are the base amounts. And then I made a randomize method that lets us enter the amount of max different resources. So now I'm trying like 3 max, and then a randomness factor. And running this, you can see down here, that one gave us 10 copper and 1 titanium. Didn't change either of those. And then here 5 iron, 8 copper. It added a bit more to the iron, and it removed a bit from the copper. 21 scrap, 3 silicon. Probably increase the randomness. Just crank it. Yeah, I'm liking this. And then this, like I've said before, this is only a ratio. So let's actually apply this now. Go like this, and then I just made a test here to make sure we can change it. And then this is gonna be, let's go like this. And then collection is this bad boy. Ran the wrong code. Let's see. Survival. Oh yeah, this one. Let's cycle through some shapes. That one has nothing. Another one. Okay. Titanium and silicon. Titanium is the rarest one, I think. Copper, 142 silicon, 370 kilos. That's a big one. Pure iron right there. Oh, we could also change the purities, because here this is set hard-coded to be 77% pure. So let's change this one as well. This is all just prototypey here, but that's the way I like to roll, to try things first, and then we clean it up and make it proper if we like it. Go from like 30% to 1%, and let's try cheeky recursiveness here. If collection is empty, return gonna be self dot randomize. Just run it again. Whoa, that's a funky one. Noise might be too much. Turn it back down a bit. Let's see what we got. Pure scrap one. Iron, copper, and scrap. That small one right there. 3 iron, 1 copper. Scrap and titanium. Alright, so we can't really see the purity. I guess the purity is noticeable by how heavy it is compared to the resources it has. Did I ever change the masses? Something reasonable? Scrap 0.3, iron 5, copper. So they're all pretty similar. Let's change this a bit. Be more based on the kind of rarity I have in mind. 2, 6, then maybe 7, 0.1, and then something hefty for this one. The volumes should just be the same for all of these. Maybe just make it 1. Yeah, I think that's better. See what that gives us quickly. I think it would be nice to write the purity there, but then it's gonna show for all modules, for the zone. And wait, why doesn't it say the worth on my zone modules? Oh no, it's because I changed the code. It's no longer enough to only set the module. We now have to call cost consume worth. So that should give us the worth back for all of our shapes here. Perfect. Then the pipe is still free. The basic storage is still free. Oh, wait. I only changed it for the zone structure. That's a bit annoying. One there. Where's the pipe? There, big pipe. Like so. All right. Corner pieces. Did I even have modules for? Maybe they shouldn't even be worth anything. Like it's fine. They can just be worthless. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay. And the car. Same thing there. Let's just fix the car quickly while we're at it. Set the module cost. Set the module cost. All right. And I changed the boulder creation here. So if we create a boulder that is free, then we just delete it. Because I don't want any boulders that don't have anything. That seems unnecessary. So this is fixing module cost for structures. All right. Nice. But since it's totally random now, the starting conditions might be impossible. You might need to reload the game a few times, but I think that's okay. I think it could give some inspiration even for when I want to take more careful considerations into account for designing a level or whatever, or like starting conditions. It's going to be very sandboxy, so no levels per se. We could implement that the radius is larger the further from the zone we are. What would the max distance be? Like that's run radius up to there. Well, it would be 2 radius, of course. It's fine. So, what do I want to do next? I was thinking could be time to get the miner action in place. I have an idea for how to do it now. I want, first of all, a special action that changes how the worth is stored in a module. Currently, this worth is all in this shape, but I want an action that distributes the worth across multiple points within the given shape. So for example, imagine we have 3 points, one for each resource here. So then perhaps the scrap would be up here, the copper would be here, and the iron would be here. And then if we have a mining rig here, then it's gonna reach the scrap or whatever I said was here. And then it's gonna start draining the scrap as long as this mining rig has power. And then when that point runs out, then the mining rig is not going to get anything else. And then there could be another action that lets us make like a scanner module that takes power to see these points within a given range. So you can actually see what you can mine. Yeah, and then the mining rig obviously has an action similar to the scanning action that gets points within the certain range. The scanner just reveals them, and the mining action will actually drain the resources from the points into a nearby storage. And then if we want, we could combine that into its own module. So the module would have both the scanner and the miner action, similar to how it would work in Space Engineers, when you can see the resources through the ground when you're holding your mining drill. Or it's separate modules, depending on the content creator. So I think that's what I want to focus on next. Very good progress.